Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Manushki Bolbe. This is a show where we explore the Bengali experience. And in this episode, we are very excited because we have a guest, Farina. Ooh. We're super excited to have you here today.
Our first guest, guys.
Yes, very special guest at that. So today we have a story about love, family, and breaking boundaries. So we're really excited to get into it. This episode, we're going to talk about dating, love, relationships, and talk about ways to kind of figure out in our community how to maybe successfully date people outside of our cultures or religion. So we're really excited to have you today. So, Farina, how are you? How's it going?
I'm doing great. I just want to thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course.
I'm really excited. And I'm also really honored to be your first guest on the podcast. I really think that what stands out to me about today's podcast is that the theme, love and family and breaking boundaries, they don't always look the way we expect them to be. And growing up, I think we often hear the question like, what will people say? And like for many of us, like me, like especially in immigrant families, I think those words come with a lot of weight. And I think the pressure to live up to certain expectations can make it difficult to really pursue our own paths or just define our own relationships on our own terms. So I'm excited to talk about that.
So excited to get into it, Rajan.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
We haven't done a podcast in probably months. I think before Ramadan.
Yeah, we've been busy.
So
we apologize. It's kind of nice that we got so many like, hey, when's the next episode?
Yeah.
It did make me feel good inside. But then it was like, oh shit, we actually need to start posting content soon.
Yeah, so Rajan and his family opened a new restaurant, Ollie and Ones. If you haven't been there, you should check it out. They have like fried chicken, yeah.
We got mac and cheese, cornbread, wings, lots of southern stuff. And you can hate me later for the advertisement, but our boy's got to make his money. So y'all should check it out.
I need to go check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
Definitely check it out. Let me know. I'll actually get you a free mingo lassi.
Ooh,
I got you.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm a little sick today, so if you hear me coughing, hopefully you don't. We'll edit it out. Okay, so Farina.
Actually, here's what we'll add this. If you feel the need to cough,
Yeah.
take a little bit of pause before that so that when I need to cut it off, I can do that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Moving forward, you will hear less coughing in the episode.
All right, so Farina, let's start off with some background information. Can you tell everybody a little bit more about you, where you're from, where your parents are from, what do you do for a living, and maybe a little bit about your partner even, if you can?
Yeah, of course. So I am 24 years old, and I was born in Kisharganj, Bangladesh. And then I moved to the United States when I was about 4 years old, and grown up here in Atlanta pretty much all my life. So I consider myself both a proud Bengali and an American. And I would say that I have the typical eldest immigrant daughter personality type, just independent, desire to protect my family and just do everything that I can. But now I'm a practicing dental hygienist, and I love my work because I get to help people.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So you were born in Kisharganj?
Yeah, I was born there.
And then you came here when you were how old?
About 4 years old.
Okay, awesome. I think I was born in Bangladesh. Were you born in Bangladesh? I can't remember. No. Oh, man. Okay, so we have two people here that are true immigrants.
Jeez. All right.
I'm kidding. Okay, so let's get into it. So obviously, yes, as you have alluded to already, dating in our community is in of itself a little bit taboo, right? Parents, I think Rajan and I have like mentioned this in previous podcasts, but our parents oftentimes are very much like anti-dating until you graduate from college, and then all of a sudden it's like, where's your wife? When are you getting married?
Yeah.
Where's your husband? Are you getting married soon? All these questions. It's like, well, you've been like anti-dating our entire lives, and all of a sudden we're supposed to find our husband. So it's definitely weird in our community already.
Sure.
But then it gets even trickier when you are dating somebody outside of your race or religion. So let's get into it. Tell us about your partner a little bit, his background, his religion and culture, and like how you guys are similar and different.
Yeah. Before I get to my partner, I actually do want to touch base on my parents.
Sure.
Because they play such a huge role in this. Growing up, we were always really close. And like you've mentioned, dating was just out of the scene growing up. Like, I couldn't talk to boys. I never even had a friend that was a boy. I wasn't close with them like that. It would just be like seeing them at school. But growing up, my dad worked as a taxi driver, and just immigrant families worked really hard. We needed each other, and I really admired that, how hard they worked to build a great life for us. And I feel like I've always been that cultural and language bridge between my parents and the world around us. So it was really hard when I first started to date, and I had to figure out that I need to date a Bengali Muslim. That's what they wanted me to date, and that's what I tried really hard to look for. But it hasn't always been easy. And so me and my partner met on Hinge, on a dating app.
Okay.
And his name is Shaq.
Okay.
He was also born in Bangladesh, in Dhaka.
Oh, awesome.
And his family's originally from Nattor. And his family's background is quite unique. Do you want to talk about that? Yeah, so his family's background is quite unique. I think his father really worked a hard job to come to the United States, and he was one of 11 siblings. And
Oh, wow. That is
yeah.
huge.
So Shaq's family, which plays another huge role in the way our relationship played out, like many Hindus in Bangladesh, they were persecuted for their faith, which was a huge part of his story and upbringing. And in Houston, his family is actually one of the founders of Moitri. It's called Moitri in Houston. It's a nonprofit organization that brings Bangladeshi Hindus together for events and charities. So I'm really found that they found a home away from the home that they felt persecuted in. But because of his dad's job, Shaq traveled a lot as a child, which is why he speaks Bangla so well today. He was in Singapore when he grew up there. He went to Bangla school there, and so he knew how to write and read there, which is something I'm really jealous of, but I also really admire because I want to be able to do that one day. His family's now based in Houston, and he did his undergraduate studies in Austin.
Okay.
And then before coming to Atlanta, just where he was doing his master's, that's where we kind of met. Mm-hmm. I think that his background is really just a mixture of resilience and just adaptability from the different places he's lived in. And he's so cute. That's one of the first things that attracted me to him. So I wasn't really expecting anything serious at first, because I knew in the back of my head I had to be with a Bengali Muslim.
Yeah.
But the more we talked, the more we realized that we had a lot in common, and I loved how open and communicative he was from the start. In fact, we had this potential breakup text early on, and instead of running away from it, we both kind of laid everything on the table, and we basically said, hey, look, one day, like, if we don't end this right now, we are going to have a really hard breakup, because we know that because of our religious differences, it wouldn't work out. It would be too hard. So I really, that openness from him is something I really appreciated.
Yeah.
But a little funny thing, so we broke up, right?
Okay.
And I remember sending him a text saying, hey, let's be friends.
Yeah.
You're new to Atlanta. Let's explore Atlanta together. And because he's new, he doesn't have any friends here just yet.
Yeah.
So we were hanging out, getting to know each other, and during the pandemic, we connected even more. We were playing things like Ludo Star with my friends
Aw.
and him. And I remember one time, this is the funny part, my mom was still trying to set me up with Muslim guys, right, during that time. And she thought Shaq was a Paki Muslim guy. But then I told her, no, this is my friend who has a crush on me, but he's Bengali Hindu. And she was not happy about that at all. So I shut it down, and I had boards coming up, and COVID had hit, and the world was just in a strange place.
Yeah.
I just didn't want her to think I was running around with a Hindu guy, and didn't want her to not trust me anymore.
I have a question. So, did you let her know that he had a crush on you for your own protection, or was that strategic? What's the strategy?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Protection, as in I didn't want my mom sitting there when we're stuck at home all together during COVID to think I was talking to a Hindu guy. And a little strategic because, well, first of all, this was very early in our relationship. I didn't even know I was going to be with him. Our connection was strong, but we still had to figure out if it was just a phase.
Yeah.
If it was a phase of me just dating different guys to see what fits me best.
Right.
So it was a little bit of both.
Okay. I see it.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a roller coaster when she found out, but I had to shut it down, like I said, and calm her down. But, despite all that external noise, I feel like Shaq and I both felt something strong between us as time passed. And that's when we realized this was serious, and we knew it was going to take a lot of patience, but we were willing to fight for each other.
Do you remember like when you kind of like made the decision?
Yeah. I think it was about a month in, we realized.
Okay.
I think when you know, you know.
Yeah.
I hate when people Sorry.
I hate it
I'm
too.
struggling by
But when it's felt, you gotta say it.
Yeah.
We just knew we couldn't spring it upon them.
So what were some of the like initial fears or some of the challenges you were kind of expecting? Because so you fell in love, right? And maybe it wasn't intentional, but it happened. And now you're in the situation of like, okay, well, we're very different. We both know probably our parents are not going to be gung-ho about this. So what was going through your head at that time?
So eventually, like when we realized this was something very serious, and with the religious differences, this was extremely serious, we knew we couldn't just, like I said, spring it on to our parents out of nowhere. It felt like we needed to approach it in a way that didn't feel like a shock to them. Like, you have to remember that our parents are also navigating life for the first time. So that was always in the back of my head. I always grew up really like aware of my surroundings, and I knew that we just have to understand each other better as we grow. So we had to deal with, the biggest fear was the cultural and religious differences, right? Especially given the historical context between Hindus and Muslims. That would just be too much for them to accept. And
was it something that you both cared about? Because I think sometimes it's like a personal thing too, right? Like when you're contemplating if you really want to move this forward, are you like thinking about this yourselves or not really?
Because our family is such a big part of my life, I had to.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't say I'm the most religious person. So it was like, oh, I can learn about your faith and be open about it. But I know there are people who can't do that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the promises Shaq and I made to each other was that we'd always stand up for our relationship, no matter how difficult it got, because we both knew it wouldn't be easy. Like I said, when you find the right person, though, you have to stick it through. But you have to lay that in the beginning.
Yeah.
You have to have that strong trust between your partner, because your partner really is the only one that's going to know how hard it's going to be.
Because you're both going through this together.
Yeah.
So you're having different experiences. Can you talk a little bit about like your experience versus his experience, like, were there any differences? Was it as hard for him as it was for you? Or did you kind of have other things to navigate, like, that were kind of different from him?
Yeah, I think him being oldest son, and he's not as close with his parents as I am. They have a different kind of relationship. I feel like we eldest daughters have just a different relationship with their parents. We're more protective of them, and we always want them to make sure they're taken care of. And feeling their disapproval it ruins us. Like, you just want them to accept you for who you are.
Yeah.
And having to show a side of you that they are not familiar with, or a side of you that they thought didn't even exist, is scary. So I had I was kind of like, everyone in my family really loves me, and I'm like kind of the golden child. So it was really a shock to everyone when they found out about this.
Yeah.
So back to what you said, it just sounds like there's a lot of pressure on you, like both internalized and, from a lot of outside sources. And we also know, as like brown people, that parents can get very protective of their daughters.
Yeah.
They're very scared of the outside world, and all they want is the best for you, even though they're not really sure what the best for you is, especially now that things have changed compared to their lives.
Right.
So how did you go about navigating the process of them getting to accept your relationship with Shaq? What's the timeline? Break it down for us.
Yeah. That's actually a really good question, because this was very complicated, but I'm gonna try to explain as seamlessly as I can, because anyone in my situation, they know that this is probably the hardest part of just that period where you're intertwining your lives, your personal lives that your parents don't know about yet, and their lives that you've known for the longest time. So honestly, it was a balance of just being patient, respectful, and very intentional in how we approach things. So, for example, I knew that introducing my parents and Shaq it wasn't just about our relationship. It was much bigger than that. It was about getting to see him as a human, as a person, and not just someone who might be out of the box, someone from a Hindu religion. But I had to prove to them that it wasn't just a phase, and it wasn't just a crush. So one of the first steps, I would say, was making sure that Shaq was already involved in some of our family dynamics.
Nice.
So my mom, little cutesy thing about her, she dreams of running a small homemade food business.
Aww.
And Shaq was one of her very first customers. And this was during COVID, so a lot of places were closed down. So home cooking was like chef's kiss, right? And so whenever he'd come over, they'd chat and they'd get to know each other. He'd come over to pick up food. And because remember, in the beginning, she found out about him because we would play Ludo, and I just said he was my friend. He does have a crush on me, but don't worry, it's nothing. And honestly, my mom loves to feed people, so...
It's like all Bengali moms love languages. They love to cook, they love to feed. It's the best.
Yeah. And she loves to make them feel comfortable and cozy. So the fact that Shaq kept coming back for her cooking and helped break helped break the ice. I think that was the first step. Mm-hmm. And it gassed her up so much. Her food's delicious. Yeah. Also, Shaq's the kind of person who's really good at offering help. So he helped my brother. He helped him build a PC. My brother started to get into gaming during the pandemic. So, and Bengalis love a little service free of exchange, right? Yeah. So it was a small thing, but he had come over and spent hours building a PC with my brother and helped him pick out the parts. But that's when I could see my family being a little bit more comfortable about him just being my friend, just being a present in my life, just someone in my circle. Another moment that was really pivotal, I think, was when I bought our family home with my dad. Mm-hmm. I had invited Shaq over as a friend, and he had brought flowers for both my mom and me. And I didn't realize how much that small gesture would mean to her, but it really touched her heart because she loves flowers. She loves receiving flowers.
Aw.
It's really easy to make her happy.
Yeah.
And she thought it was so sweet. So that was one of those small but significant moments that kept building up to the point where we would finally come out. Another way is when Shaq's parents visited Atlanta, he couldn't pick them up because of his internship at the time. So I made sure to pick them up from the airport, still under the disguise of being just friends. So I showed them around Global Mall, the Hindu temples, and I wanted to really just make them feel like I wasn't just tolerating their cultural beliefs, cultures and beliefs. And I genuinely just wanted to share their world and learn about it. It just felt like I was showing up in a way, even though things weren't official yet, and I was just a friend. I was just showing them how much I cared, even just as a person who wasn't as significant. And I was willing to, just invest time with them, no matter how complex it really was.
Yeah. That's a really interesting, thing. When you talked about, the ways in which you would kind of, be a part of each other's lives in these ways, was this very intentional? Were you guys having conversations this is what you're going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and when your parents come? Or did it kind of happen and then you debrief later?
At approximately 1 p.m., she's going to say this, and this is going to be your response.
So prescriptive, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just, did you plan some of this stuff out?
I think it was things were happening, and we were like, oh, this is how we could reframe the situation, and let's put me in this situation so they can get to know me. So it's a little bit of fate, a little bit of just destiny and how Allah had written, I guess. Yeah, a little bit of both, because we were kind of going to it blind. We had a little bit in our head, but with the pandemic and being stuck, we weren't really finding a lot of ways to get to know each other, so to get a little bit creative, and things just worked our way.
Was it, when you were going through this, was there a point in time where you were like, okay, if one of our families rejects us, we shouldn't move forward? Was that ever a conversation, or were you guys even if our families don't accept this, we're gonna be together? And and did you talk about what would happen if the what ifs happened?
Yeah, so I think we did talk about that. That was our very first conversation. That breakup text was literally that. And we had to work it off, because we were like, yeah, if one of our families say no, then we're not in it. But once we reconnected, we realized, no, if one of them backs out, we're still staying together, because eventually we would have worked as hard as we could to gain their support and love and acceptance. But we could at least live in peace with that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, your partner is your stepping stone to your own life that you're going to build.
Yeah.
So we would have still stuck together.
Okay. Thanks.
Damn.
That's the kind of love you need, Rajan.
Stop. This isn't
Rajan is single, guys.
This isn't about me. Jeez.
I imagine there must have been so many difficult conversations along the way, just with you and your parents, him and his parents. Can you kind of tell us about any specific things that you, or moments that you remember when you were talking to them and there was just a click moment, or a moment where they kind of understood where you were coming from? Or how did you approach these really difficult conversations?
Yeah. There were definitely a ton of difficult moments. I would say one of the most hardest things was explaining to my parents that it wasn't really about the religion or culture. It was the fact that two people who deeply cared for each other and just wanted to build a future together, take that religion out of it, and that's all we want to do.
And this is something that you told your parents?
Yeah, it was really hard to say in Bangla.
Yeah.
This is like a small question, but how often did religion come up, as in the sense that are you still going to be Muslim? Or from his parents, are you still going to be Hindu? Like, are they going to take away a religion away from you?
That's a very good question. It came up almost every day.
Yeah.
So we had promised each other, that was some of the groundwork that we laid down, was we were not going to convert to each other's religions. We were staying Hindu and Muslim, and we would learn about each other's cultures still, and we would participate in different events and learn about it, but it doesn't make sense to convert into something that you don't really believe in, even if it's for nominal purposes. It's not, I just feel like it's not being true to ourselves.
Yeah, I think I've spoke about that with someone before. It's just like, if you are willing to convert, quote unquote, for someone else, that I think that says a lot about you.
Yes.
And the fact that you're not really okay with holding your own morals and values.
Absolutely.
And I would consider that a red flag.
In fact, one of the very first conversations my mom and dad had with Shaq, he came over and they were practically begging him to convert at that point. But he is so admiring too, that the way he said it was like, if I could with my heart, I would, but I can't lie to you guys. And I think that said a lot about him, and my parents realized where he was coming from. And also they considered, he told them about the stories of what his parents dealt with back in Bangladesh just because they were Hindu.
Yeah.
So once my parents realized it's much bigger,
Yeah.
and he couldn't do that to his parents.
Yeah.
I don't want him to do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want my own kid doing that.
Yeah.
So I think once they realized that the world is changing, and sometimes we have to look beyond our immediate experiences and historical baggage and just embrace something new, even if it's not the correct way.
Yeah. Historical baggage, I think that really resonates with a lot of people. Were there times when you felt discouraged, like it might not work out? I'm imagining towards the end of your process of getting your parents' approval, it was probably the hardest then, right? You probably didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
What kept you kind of going during those moments?
Yeah. There were so many of those. I think that 2 years that we were going through this, I think I was really depressed. Yeah. But it's such a contrast because I was in love. Mm-hmm. I was head over heels. Mm-hmm. I was ready. I found my person. It's such a happy thing that I think everyone who wants to eventually have a family look forward to.
Yeah, sounds nice.
Rajan, it'll happen. It'll happen.
A dream.
Yeah, but it was really, I think, the fear of just losing family support. But as I talked to my friends, I think they really kept me going. They would be there to talk through lots of FaceTime calls, crying, and
so a support system is very important.
Very important.
If you're going through something like this, definitely have some good friends, some good people to talk to.
Yeah.
And you can't go through this experience alone.
Yeah. There's, and that's why I'm so glad to be here, because I want to be there for anyone else that could be going through this. And I know there are like Facebook groups and stuff out there that were really helpful to me as well. Just tons of people going through similar situations, all in hiding, because they feel like even some of their friends, I don't consider friends if they don't understand, are going through that.
Patience and communication are obviously key, I think. Can you share some examples of when you communicated with your parents in a way that they understood and connect? I think you've alluded to this before, but like obviously really kind of breaking it down that this has nothing to do with religion. This is two people that really care about each other, and like we really need you to understand that.
Yeah.
But I think oftentimes when young people like us are getting into relationships like this, it's hard to come up with specific ways to talk to your parents. It's hard to even think about, hey, how am I going to express to my parents that I really love this person? Is there any advice that you can kind of
Yeah.
give to folks who are going through this experience?
Yeah. I think a lot of our conversations were very repetitive.
Yeah.
And all of our conversations almost was just me being very vulnerable. There were, most of the time, my parents were very shut down about it. And I wanted them to just see me as their daughter again. Because with everything happening, there was a shadow, a shield over me that, and they couldn't see me as who I was anymore. And so it really wasn't about convincing them, though. It was about letting them into my heart and helping them understand why this relationship was so important and that they are also important to me. I really wanted them to know that I didn't want to have to choose between him or them or my. I was afraid. I had to really show them I was afraid to lose them. I wanted them present in my life, and in that it was breaking my heart to see all of us like this, because we were always so strong, so close, and we've always helped each other achieve things in life. I just kept repeating that over and over, and I wouldn't stop because I don't give up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of resilience.
Definitely. I will say, like, know, I guess, when to stop, because it can take a toll on you.
Yeah. Because it can be a disheartening process. And I think, like, when you don't have that strong bond with your partner, it can also, I think, make things worse. Because you're often going back and forth on, like, okay, are we going to do this or not? But when you made a decision, it seemed like with you and Shaq, you made that decision, you were firm on that decision. And, like, nothing, that decision didn't come back, it seemed like.
Yeah. I actually wanted to go into that a little bit
Yeah.
from Shaq's side, which is really what got the ball rolling. All this time, we've been trying to incorporate each other in our lives. But when does it stop? When did the game stop? When did the strategy stop?
Right.
When does it end?
When are you
When
honest?
does the hiding? Yeah, when can you be fully honest? We just kept waiting for that time. And so once Shaq came out to his parents about us, I did the same with mine, like immediately, like the next day.
Okay.
And honestly, neither family took it well. It was just a complete disaster. Like, our worst fears about the cultural and religious divide playing out were realized. Like, it was full on happening. It was a TV show. It was a wreck. But even in that moment of disaster, we knew that we were 100% committed, no matter how tough it got. And we didn't rush things still. After that, we waited less than a year before Shaq proposed to me. At that point, Shaq had already made it clear to his parents that he was going to do it, with or without their blessing. He told them that they were the ones who would miss out on having a relationship with their son if they didn't accept it. And I think that was a really hard thing for them to hear. That was, like I said, a very hard line. But at that point, we knew that we couldn't let that fear just let us wait and wait and wait and miss out on getting married and start our future. So we just got tired of the drama, the emotional exhaustion it takes on you.
Yeah.
So we decided to get married actually within a month after our proposal in our homes.
Okay.
We had a small little intimate nikah with a progressive imam and officiant, and a Hindu wedding in Houston. It got the ball rolling for both parents, actually. They were like, okay, we want to make it halal now.
Right.
So we knew that in the eyes of both our faiths, marriage would make everything halal. It would give us the freedom to start building our future together without all this layer of, complication.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to wait any longer to be perfect. Like, we realized it's never going to be perfect, and it still isn't.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to be together.
Yeah.
Our families needed time. Our families still were gathering themselves. So, they didn't agree to do the weddings together on the same day.
Okay.
That was honestly really sad for me because I had hoped they'd be able to come together for us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's okay. They're trying their best, and we're trying to create a new normal together. The important thing is that, we're married now, and we can move forward, and even if it takes time for everyone to fully accept everything. So that was intense.
So what does that look like now? In terms of your families, do they mesh now? Are they getting along a little bit better?
Yeah. They are there. I mean, his mom sends my mom like shobji from her garden
Aw.
whenever I go over, and TSA opens up one bag and there's a big lao in there.
And
Yeah.
they're like,
But they're
what
doing
is
well.
this?
Yeah, they actually met 6 months after we got married. They had a get together at my mom's house, and it went well. His dad even mentioned like it was Maghrib time, so his dad goes, "Oh, do you want to go do your prayer?" So that was just so wholesome. Like,
That's amazing.
that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they're respecting each other. And my mom had made all veg because they eat vegetarian certain days. So I loved that they knew little things about each other and were, putting importance to that. Yeah.
That's
really
amazing.
cute.
So beautiful. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
It's like all of the worries that that your parents and his parents made up in their heads,
Yeah.
they never saw that after you got married.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
It's beautiful. It's a tragically beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think.
Something that you'll remember forever and tell your future kids one day, inshallah. Looking back, what advice would you give to others in a similar situation? Anything that you would do differently or... Yeah, go ahead.
And by similar situation, obviously people's situations are different, but I feel like yours will resonate for a lot of people who want to maintain the relationships that they have with their parents. They don't want, like
Exactly.
you said earlier, there is a cutoff point, but let's do what's absolutely necessary.
Right.
Let's give it our all. Let's try to make this work for everyone.
There was a time where actually my dad was just like, okay, you can leave. You can go live your life if that's what you want to do. And I told him, okay, well, I'm going to show up to your house every single day. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I was just being silly with him. But I was also angry, but I wanted him to show that's how serious I am about keeping our relationship alive.
Yeah.
But looking back, I would say the biggest piece of advice I'd give to anyone in a situation like this is to be patient with both yourself and your family. Change, especially in the context of family dynamics and growing up in a totally different country from where they were grown up. It takes time and a lot of practice. I think it's habits that we have to break. It's easy to feel like you need to rush or push things forward, but the truth is that deep emotional shifts like that, especially in families with strong cultural values, and we Bengalis have very strong cultural values, they don't happen overnight. The key thing to remember is when you're trying to bring your parents along on such a personal journey is to just approach it with compassion. And that might be hard when you're angry and you just want them to understand you.
Yeah.
But they might not fully understand your choices right away, especially if those choices challenge these long-held beliefs or traditions. But that doesn't mean they won't come to understand them with time. So give them the space to process and give your time the grace to stay patient in that process. Just don't expect them to immediately accept it,
Right.
immediately get their approval. Just keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
Show them that you're still here in ways that you can, that you're not changing who you are because of X, Y, and Z. So if you're coming from a place of love, authenticity, even the toughest conversations can eventually lead to mutual understanding. And I think once my parents understood I'm not budging,
Yeah.
I'm staying true to myself,
Yeah.
and this is what makes me happy. People will see that.
Yeah. They just accepted it. You kind of have to
Yeah.
at that point.
Because they see me thriving.
Right.
We're two successful people who are just in love.
Yeah.
They see that. They want you to be happy. But just know there are boundaries, though, that you have to create because it can get very exhausting.
Yeah.
And on that note, this was it had to be slow process, like you said. You had to gradual steps needed to be taken. What have you learned about your family and friends from this experience? Like how what did you take from all of this? Did it teach you anything about yourself and, just your mom and dad, like, oh, these are the little things that bother them? Like, I'm curious because I feel like a lot of brown kids tend to explode on their parents.
Yeah.
And the hard part is that their parents tend to explode on them too. Like they grew up, you are a product of your
Absolutely.
environment. So what was oh, we're heading to danger zone right now. We need to back off. Like I need to walk away right now.
There has definitely been times where I actually just went for a drive. I couldn't. There was so much yelling and screaming happening to the point where like my little brother was like, I can't deal with this either. This is affecting me now.
Yeah.
So you just take some space
Yeah.
and they're going to sigh a lot and everyone's going to act like they have a cloud over their heads.
Yeah.
The Grinch is behind them. Just take some space, write about it, call a friend,
Yeah.
go get some McDonald's, take a break.
Yeah.
Read maybe, I don't know, a self-help book. I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen to your favorite music. Just do something that takes you out of that space.
Yeah.
You have to just distract yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and it's definitely had a big relationship on my parents since then, and it's had a really good effect on us though. Sometimes it felt like we were worlds apart in terms of values and understanding, really. But I think the most important thing I've learned through this is that we don't always have to agree on everything. And so it's really just about continuing to show up for one another, even when you don't understand each other fully or why someone is choosing to do something a certain way.
Yeah.
And because I know some of my friends, they wouldn't do what I did. They're completely against it, but they are still supporting me.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
Right.
But in a lot of ways, it's strengthened all these relationships. My friends, my cousins, my mom and dad, my brother. It's really forced me as well to be really honest and open in ways that I hadn't before. And I think it kind of pressured my parents to reflect on their beliefs as well. So tough conversations that we've had, but it's really led to a lot of moments of connection and growth. But like I say, it's not a static thing. Neither any relationship, really, friendships, family, love. Just because things are challenging, it doesn't mean that they'll stay forever. That they'll stay like that forever. So sometimes the most difficult periods in a family life, it can be really lead to the deepest connections, deepest memories, really. I think my entire family will remember that period of our lives forever, but they will also remember how close we got because of it.
It's so beautiful. Wow. Inspirational, honestly. Like I hope people listen to this and get inspired by this, because it really is going to bring hope, I think, to so many people. I think Bengalis, out of all the South Asians, are really dating outside of our cultures and religions a lot. So it's not going to be you. It's a lot of people in your shoes and coming in the next years. I'm sorry, my fiance is Turkish.
Hard line.
Sorry. My older sister married a Pakistani man. My dad was a freedom fighter. That was a big deal. We're all going through these things, and it's so important to share our stories. Rajon, what about you, man? What's going on with you? Any new updates on your love life?
It's going. We're making progress.
Okay.
Very much focused on other things right now.
Are you focused on Bengali Muslim only, or are you open?
I'm open.
Okay.
Yeah.
My parents on that idea, maybe not. So I'll have to listen to this podcast religiously when I'm going through those events. This is a question I wanted to bring up, and I hope that's okay with you guys. You gave advice to the audience, specifically the audience that wants to maintain a relationship with their parents. What advice or guidance would you give to the parents in those situations? What are things that you wish your parents knew and understood before all the other things that they might have said to you or made you feel?
Well, I don't think we can ever go back in time and change. what we
Obviously,
said.
right.
I think really the key takeaway that I hope they learned is meeting each other halfway.
Mhm.
I think they learned a lot about the expectations that I think I have expectations and they have expectations.
Yeah.
that are
Before it
very
was
different.
probably like one way.
Mhm.
Like we have expectations of you,
Mhm.
but I don't think
They knew my
they
expectations.
knew yours, right?
So I feel like when it comes to these cultural, religious, or generational pressures that are from our families, if the bond is strong enough, it's worth doing the hard work. I think both me and my parents did a lot of hard work. Both sides did to make it work because we matter to each other. I think they realized I love my daughter. I just want her to be happy.
Yeah.
So sometimes it means setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it means compromising. And sometimes it means having a bunch of difficult conversations over and over again. But at the end, if you're rooted in love and mutual respect, those efforts pay off. And I know that's what my parents had, which is why they were able to get to this point of accepting us. My advice would be just stay true to your values, communicate openly, and remember that no relationship is perfect. But the effort to nurture it it's always worth it.
Yeah.
They're not just about easy moments.
Right.
Relationships are not about easy moments. They're also about showing up for each other through the tough ones. I think that's what we all got from this.
Yeah. Amazing. So
Wow.
beautiful.
Thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
having
thank you
me.
so much for coming and sharing your story. Emotional. We hope that you flourish in your relationship and we get to meet Shaq one day. Have you met Shaq?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I want him to help me build a PC now.
Yes. Oh, he'd be so down.
Yeah, that'd
He
be
loves
cool.
doing
Because I have a pre-built, but
that. He built his own and during the pandemic. So hit me up.
I got you.
But thank you guys so much, really. This was amazing. I'm so happy that I got to finally talk about this.
Yeah.
I really feel like a weight is off.
It's amazing.
And I hope I can really help anyone who might be feeling a little stuck in a situation like this.
Thanks, Verena. You were amazing. To all of our listeners, we appreciate you guys. Remember that love and patience can go a long way. And sometimes the hardest path is one worth taking. Any final remarks, Rajan?
Yeah, if you have experiences that you want to share, just for the sake of just letting it out, or you want to help, you want to just put your voice out there to help someone in need, feel free to reach out to us. We're always open to conversations. We don't bite. I'm super nice, I promise. And Sultan is a sweetheart. So hit us up and we'll definitely get back to you. We have a lot of ideas and feel free to share yours.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Go.
No
I was
way.
holding in that cough.
We did that.
48. That was perfect.
Perfect. And we'll do edits so it'll get shorter.
Yeah.
The coughs. Yeah. Probably be stuttering my words.
No, I think you guys did great.
That was awesome. I don't